capacity building and knowledge exchange. We're going to start with some brief introductions from our counterparts at USAID and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation before hearing short presentations from USAID Wallace, IHE Delft, AVOG, and COST. Then we'll be able to break out into our facilitated discussion groups and close with sharing an overview of the discussion we've had today. So please join me in welcoming Amanda Robertson with USAID and Ashan Shrestha with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Thank you, everyone. As Elaine said, welcome to the Financing and Capacity Building track here at Africa Sand. We are thrilled at USAID to be co-convening this particular track with UNICEF, and are thrilled that you're all here today and showing interest in this. This is a great group, and I really appreciate your willingness to spend your time here with us today. As Elaine also said, my name is Amanda Robertson. I'm one of the senior water advisors at USAID, and I happen to focus on WASH in sub-Saharan Africa. So this is certainly a topic very near and dear to my heart. Sanitation continues to be a top priority for USAID, which is as reflected within our new water and development strategy that was released just last year. USAID has spent roughly $400 million on WASH globally each year for the past few years, and in any given year, roughly half of that is in sub-Saharan Africa, with that percentage of the total funds continuing to go up in terms of how much is being targeted at sub-Saharan Africa. Within our work, the role of thought leadership, as well as the role of individual and institutional capacity building, is one of our main areas of focus. And I think that's really what has brought us all here today. And so I'm excited to explore some of that throughout the rest of this session. And with that, I just thank you all again and look forward to hearing today's presentations.
Thank you. This is Roshan Shrestha, Deputy Director for Water and Sanitation Hygiene Team in the Gates Foundation. It's a very interesting session we are going to start here. Previously, actually, a lot of people, they think about the foundation, Gates Foundation, we are working more on technology, inventing new toilet technologies or coming up with some innovations on technology only. But when we started work in the ground, then we realized that we need to have different approaches, not only technology or infrastructure really going to work. And even if you put money itself, it's not going to work without the human capacity. And when I read one report published by IWA in 2015, and that time they have clearly mentioned about 800,000 people needed to deliver water, sanitation, hygiene in 10 countries or 15 countries. That means, that time, I don't know how it was estimated, because it was more, we are talking about the toilet system, but now we are talking about the sanitation services. So sanitation, safely sanitation management, things that is much more different than what we are doing in the past. So if you really think about entire containment, collection, treatment, transport, everything, if you consider like entire sanitation chain, then you need to have very strong capacity building component who is delivering that services for the safely managed sanitation system. And then when we work in the ground, work with the city, then we found that city authority doesn't have capacity. When we work with the private sector, they can't really deliver the system what we are thinking about. When we talk with the bank or development bank, although they invest money, but they are not able to deliver their services because they don't find the right consulting company who can design the things that what we're talking about. That's why then since last 2 years, 2 to 3 years of time, we heavily involved in capacity building program. And then initially, our partner, IHE, we are working with them since last 6-7 years, starting with some courses program on master's program and PhD program. And then we realized maybe we need to do different courses to design. Damir will talk about more about how the capacity building program, how the academic program is designing by IHE and how it's going to spread all over the sub-Saharan Africa and in South Asia. Similarly, then when we talk about the consulting company who don't have capacity to design a system, Then we discussed, okay, now why don't we also come with some package so that consulting company will have some idea, better idea about the designing a system. Then we work with the AWOG and Isabel, Peter, and Christoph. They come up with a very nice package for the consulting company. Then other one is service provider, who is going to really deliver that training package and who is really run that training program. And that also big capacity gap is there as well. Then we work with CAST. Hey, let's come up with some idea and do some assessment of the all training institutions who can deliver that program. And we also need to build capacity of those training institutions as well. So all these three components now in place. I'm looking forward to hear from our colleague. All three colleagues will be talking to you about that. And I'm very much happy to see that. And also, maybe you need to give them feedback as well to improve that courses. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name's Sophie Hickling. I'm here to present a study that was carried out by the USAID Wallace program. Well, in fact, it was 3 feasibility studies to analyze capacity building needs and demands of sanitation management and leadership in African utilities and in local governments. So the study I'm going to talk about, we looked at questions including whose capacity needs building, in what and how. So we've called it it was called the African Sanitation Academy, with the idea that this would be an academy just for sanitation. And at this point, I want to recognize the study leads for the regional reports, which were in West Africa, Bekkay Diop, in Southern Africa, Alana Potter, and in East Africa, Yolanda Coombs. And the regional studies, I'm just going to check that I know how this works. Okay. So the regional studies used mainly key informant interviews, focus group interviews with potential clients of a sanitation academy, as well as providers of existing sanitation capacity development at different levels. And also we did an analysis of existing courses in terms of their structure and their content. And then after those 3 regional studies, we decided that we needed a wider sample of people working in sanitation in Africa. So we carried out an online survey, and we sent requests to almost 1,000 potential respondents across Africa in French, Portuguese, and English language. And we received nearly 900, sorry, that's an exaggeration, it was 300. We received 300 responses from 30 different countries. So for the rest of my presentation, what I want to do is just run through some of the really interesting things that came out of that online survey. But I wanted to just show you this first as some background to our thinking. We developed this cycle when we were doing the East Africa regional study as a way of visualizing how political prioritization and funding link directly to the presence of having a vibrant job market and an ability to attract and retain skilled professionals to the sector. And they, in turn, provide a political voice and can advocate for political prioritization to drive the cycle and to continue forward. So the red circles are the bits that the ASA aimed to target. And bringing this back to the AfricaSan conference and the Ngor commitments, whilst human capacity for sanitation and hygiene is an important commitment on its own, but having that capacity in place is a building block for commitment 2 on political mobilization, and commitment 3 on securing funding for the sector, and commitment 4 on leadership to drive the entire sector. So it's key, fundamental to all of the Ngor commitments. So for the results. So from the ASA study online, 95 people working in sanitation see the sector as aspirational. And 90% of people said they intend to stay working in sanitation because they feel it's an important sector. And for us, this challenged the perception that we had received in the regional reports that sanitation is considered non-aspirational and that people in sanitation are waiting to exit to a better sector as soon as possible. But this intrinsic motivation is important, but it's also difficult to teach. And it comes from admiring and being inspired by other leaders and mentors in the sector. So then looking at background careers and pathways to how the people we interviewed became sanitation leaders. When we started the regional studies, there were some implicit assumptions that the demand and the need for capacity building in the sanitation sector centered around formal education. However, the online survey, we found that almost 90% of respondents already have a bachelor's degree, and more than 50% also had a master's degree or a PhD. And we also found that sanitation leaders came from a variety of backgrounds and had followed very different career pathways to get to where they were. So whilst we often consider sanitation to be an engineering career, in reality, there are many different starting points, and almost as many sanitation professionals have a background in business studies as they do in engineering. And we also did an analysis on whether your starting point or your professional background influenced whether leaders, how equipped they felt to do their job, and it showed very little variation between background profession and a feeling that you had what you needed to do the job. Then we looked at competencies, and a competency being more than simply knowledge, but being also encompassing skills and attitudes. So this graph, and I'm not sure if you can read it, but what you need to know is that the graph is the 10 most frequently cited core competencies needed for a sanitation leader. And the red bars show non-technical competencies, and the blue bars, or bar, shows a technical competency. So what this showed us is that sanitation leadership demands not so much a strong technical background, but other transferable competencies like advocacy and like planning skills. And then how we deliver. So different training methods obviously present the learner with different advantages and disadvantages, which factor into people's decisions on which type of capacity building they take. And the ASA online survey respondents reported that they had participated in a large number of different types of training methods, and most frequently cited was on-the-job training, short face-to-face courses, and knowledge exchange visits. And then in the regional studies, key informants recommended that training length be kept short to minimize the time out of office for current and potential sanitation leaders. And this was borne out by the online survey, where the results showed that few employers would agree to staff, particularly senior staff, taking more than 5 weeks away from the office for training purposes in a year. And then also related to that, a little bit more difficult to explain succinctly, but relatively few of the face-to-face courses that we analysed dealt only with sanitation. So it's more common for short courses to encompass water and sanitation combined, even though in a lot of the countries in Africa, sanitation and water actually fall under different institutions. So it means that some of the course content may not be relevant to participants whose job focus is on sanitation only, or sanitation and health, or sanitation and environmental health, but that don't have a focus on the water aspect. So the finding was that shorter module-type courses allow learners to mix and match a bit according to their need. And then relevance of the training quality, and then opportunities for practice were the top 3 influencing factors on whether somebody would select a course or not. And then finally, we looked at how respondents preferred to learn different types of skills and different types of competencies. So for technical topics, on-the-job training, short courses, and knowledge exchange are the preferred methods of skills building. And this is likely to be related to the finding from the regional studies that often technology and approaches change so fast, they move faster than formal curriculum development. So even new courses that come out are very often already outdated in terms of the technology and the approaches. So on-the-job and peer learning can be more easily targeted and timed to provide knowledge when the learner needs it. And for leadership and management type skills, online survey participants indicated that they preferred on-the-job training, short courses, and interactions with mentors. And as I said earlier, these are competencies that are a bit more, they're intrinsic qualities that can be learned from experience and from working with mentors who exhibit those qualities. And from the ASA survey results, much of the formal capacity building that takes place through face-to-face short courses, especially in technical themes, is carried out by organizations who are training their own staff and partners. So organizations like UNICEF and WaterAid who are training their staff and partners in these technical areas. So still staying with preferred types of learning, knowledge exchange and peer learning provides the opportunity for professionals to learn from others who've gone through similar processes and overcome similar challenges. And almost all online respondents indicated that knowledge exchange is highly valued as a way of building their capacity. And I've already touched a bit on mentoring, but it's important, it gives this important opportunity to learn, and it's already widely used informally, and it is considered valuable for management and leadership rather than technical skills. But we found it also happens more in the private sector and in utilities, and less so in local government. So that could be a cross-learning between those different groups of how to incorporate more formal mentoring into capacity development. And then just a quick note, it's not included on here, but online courses, they definitely weren't preferred way of building capacity, and completion rates were quite low for people who had taken online courses. But there's definitely potential interest, with quite a high proportion of people reporting that they had undertaken an online course. So in addition, unlike the short courses we looked at, online courses very often dealt specifically with leadership issues or sanitation issues, as opposed to more broadly dealing with sanitation as part of WASH. So the study also identified ways that online courses could be made a bit more attractive or desirable for learners. So, for example, building in opportunities to discuss with peers who are also taking the course. And then an important thing that came out of the studies also was that online courses, whilst they demand typically up to 10 hours work per week, very often people are doing that in their own time. So one way to make them more attractive was to work with employers to provide online study time arrangements for staff so that they're doing it within, as you would if you went to a training, rather than trying to cram this into your evenings. And we thought that would increase participation and completion rates. So finally, in summary, from the work we carried out at regional level and the online survey, there's demand, an opportunity to build leadership skills and competencies through classroom-based learning and short courses or online courses. But what's really important is that learning is consolidated in the field with opportunities to engage and discuss the implementation of new knowledge by interacting with peers and mentors to gain on-the-ground experience. So an opportunity to practice is really important. And just the other conclusion was just-in-time learning is important. So being able to acquire and apply knowledge when you need it is more valuable than simply accumulating knowledge through class-based training. And knowledge exchange, I said, is highly valued for this reason. So it was just a very brief summary. There is way more in these reports than I have time to present here. So if you're interested to read further, all the reports are available online on the Global Waters website. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Sophie. I did want to quickly say she's being very humble, and she was a co-author of both the East Africa and the final feasibility report. And next, join me in welcoming Demir to the stage. All yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will have my presentation. First half will be from here, and second half will be from the back, because I have to handle one website that I prefer to have instead of slides. So my name is Damir Berjanovic. I'm professor of sanitation and sanitary engineering at IAG Delft. And I'd like to share with you some new developments around postgraduate education and professional education where IAG is involved and leads some of these activities, supported by Gates Foundation and the Dutch government and a number of partners from Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and also from Latin America. So I was puzzled when we finished with the Millennium Development Goals a couple of years ago that a UN report said that, that Africa, for example, if it wants to satisfy its demand for sanitation professionals, if the speed is as it is, we would have demands satisfied in 2050. This information makes us worried. IG is delivering the training and postgraduate education for 60 years. Something is, if we continue with that traditional type of educating people, we will not reach also our demands on SDGs. So we said, okay, there should be a new ways to reach more, to accelerate the impact of education. And I would like to share some of the new ways that we applied. So, connecting to the presentation before me, we developed a number of online courses in sanitation field and sanitary engineering field, and together with partners. We realized that if we alone deliver these courses, we can educate, let's say, up to 50 or 100 people per year as IAG. But if we join with the partners, we can reach these numbers and we can elevate these numbers very quickly. So what we did, exactly that. We developed, together with the partners, the first online course on fecal sludge management, supported by the first textbook in the field that was spearheaded with the EWAG and the partners. And we designed that for that online course. And this was the first time that IAG delivered the online course together with the partners simultaneously at 6 different locations. The result was that we, in 3 months, reached 600 people. In next year, we reached more than 1,000 people, just by combining the forces. Then we said, at IG, we can educate maybe 10, 20, 30 people at master level per year. We found out that our educational materials have also been updated and more interdisciplinary. We also now saw from previous presentation, it's not about technology only, it's about many other factors. So what we decided then to design a new master program in sanitation, unique program, which combined views of more than 100 experts that we put together in a workshop in Delft, followed by the workshop during the FSM4 in Chennai, and followed up by another workshop that we had in Delft, until we came with the right design, which combines the content and balance between different topics. We came up with 15 courses within that program, and the research part, which we do not in Delft, but we do it at places where our partners are. So we do it together with the partners. Here in the room, we have, for example, EWAG and Emory, who are responsible for delivery of 2 of the modules in that program. And that program is the first interdisciplinary program in the Netherlands on sanitation, and also unique in the world. We realized that having that program, again, only in Delft is not enough. So we came up with the idea, which generated the window of opportunities for us, but also for many other universities in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And we generated a new program called, a new framework called Global Sanitation Graduate School. This is a new framework where we want to transfer this Delft-based program, which is global, with global orientation, to at least 30 universities in Sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. We started that program. At this moment, we are visiting universities and building up good proposals for funding, and we are planning to start with the transfer of our program, which will gain only graduates in April this year, so it's very fresh. And already this year, we will have application of this new master program at least 10 universities. Next year, we plan to expand it to 30, and our goal is to create leaders in developing and implementing sanitation. After 3 to 4 years, we plan to generate 1,000 skilled sanitation professionals. It's a big number. This will be divided over 500 Master of Science diplomas, but also professional diplomas. We developed something called Graduate Professional Diploma Program, GPDP, which is also, it's kind of small master, but much more professional orientation. And that can be done also online from home without need to travel anywhere. Next to that, we also realized that we need to support characterization in the field of fecal matter, septic sludge, urine, and so on. And we found out that not many laboratories exist in the world who can analyze very specific characteristics of this material. We found out that there are only few of such labs. And we are very grateful that the Gates Foundation also realized that and helped developing such labs. And I'm proud to say that now we have 6 of such labs, which are with all kinds of facilities that can support research and education and practical developments. And they are in Durban, 2 in India, in Delft. EWAC has also facilities, and AIT in Bangkok. Based on that, we also developed a global partnership of laboratories for fecal sludge analysis. And on our stand of Global Sanitation Graduate School, number 13, you can get a leaflet with information what these labs can do for us and for you. So the idea in the future is that we need to accelerate education. We need to find new ways how to engage people. Education is expensive, so the funding is an issue all the time. And we have to look, and we are looking for innovations, how we can reach more with less. And we also have lots of alumni from these programs. And usually we don't pay too much attention to their career development, what they've done with that knowledge after they finish the education, and so on and so on. So within this Global Sanitation Graduate School, we also delivered mechanisms to link up with alumni, to establish alumni community. I will show it in a moment on the website, how we deal with our graduates. At this moment, we have 30 people here in Delft. This morning, I had the workshop with them, talking about new ways how we can generate more impact with their knowledge gained from these courses. I would like to mention that this is not really IAG, promotion of IAG and IAG courses. This is really global inclusive platform which promotes all courses from everybody who has a high-level postgraduate type of courses, but also professional courses, MOOCs, on-campus courses, online courses, tailor-made trainings, Master of Science programs, and also PhD and postdoc programs. So we developed this website very recently, and I would like now to just demonstrate to you quickly what that website entails, and that will give a better impression of what this graduate school is. So while you are thinking about questions, and I will walk to the back and I will continue. So what you see is a landing page of the website. Okay, so I'm getting used to technology here. If you scroll down, you will see prestigious partners who are supporting us. This is official visual of the website, and we have some news section. And here is the core of the website where we have a list of possibilities. Here is a Global Sanitation Graduate School. Then we have this professional program, online courses, on-campus courses, laboratory training, and tailor-made training. So these are all segments in the website. And here we have something called Stories from the Field. We are really interested what our alumni are doing after they leave our premises or after they complete courses. And here they can submit their stories, and we publish their stories. So I can just show you, let's say, the latest story from a couple of days ago of our alumni who did the online course, and then he applied that knowledge in practice, and then we just show what they have done. And also there is a quote of them that they want to say, and of course the contacts. So if you go to our Global Sanitation Graduate School website, here you see that we have already now about 30 members in the school. There is a news section, and here we have different programs. At this moment, we have only a couple of programs which are Delft-based, but this year we will enrich this list with another at least 10 universities who will deliver this Master of Science in Sanitation program. Here I go to our website which deals with the existing program. On this program you can find all information about that, the content, and what is interesting that all these materials are for free, so they are free to download. You can download them with it's open access and it's global access. So here we are also proud to have a number of very prominent guest lecturers involved in the program, and about 50 people are involved in the development of this program, and some of the faces are very familiar, are also in this room, so you can just go and find out, and the list is extensive. Further on, we also established the program advisory board, which gives us a direction and support, and we have a number of prominent people, which you can see here, and I think you recognize many of the people here. All our materials are free, as I said, free to download, and we have 13 different courses in this program, and you can go through this list. And this is the first interdisciplinary program. So this program includes leadership, governance, project management, finances, economics, technology, emergency sanitation, chemistry, laboratory, and many other topics, which is very unique. And for the first time, we have this combination in one program. So, for example, if you go to here, sanitation and public health, then you can download all materials just by one click, and you get the full file from here. And now, to go to finalization of my presentation, I would like to share with you our alumni community. We now have registered 136 experts. We just started with that. So here you have a database. And for example, if you need to find sanitation expert for your project in the area where you have a project, or you need some support or knowledge and expertise, you can go here. You can look for, on the left-hand side, for type of expertise or skills that you need. For example, if you need someone on management and planning, you click here, and then you get 25 people with these skills, and you want really young water professional, so less than 5 years, you get 5 of these. Candidates, you can take a look. You can also go into country level and select country that you need. And for example, if you need to contact this person, you will get the business card of that person here with a link to his or her CV, contact details, and also in the green, you can see here what is the relationship of that person to the Alumni Alliance. So which courses that person completed under this alliance. We also have a very long collection of online courses, which are, some of them are examined, some of them are not examined. You can get credits or not, and you can see here that we have lots of partners involved here from different countries. And when you want to go to some of these courses, you click, and it will take you to the website. Now this is maybe not working. It will take you to the website of that program, and then you can register and apply on this program here. What is interesting that our program, I'm closing, that our program is, I have to be here, so that our program is not only to Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, we also get lots of interest from Latin America, from China, Russia, Australia, and many other countries. So it's becoming really a global program. And I'm very excited that I direct this program, and I'm looking for new members. So we are looking for new members to join the graduate school and to make it really even more global. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jamir, and I apologize for rushing you a little bit. Next up, we have Laura Kohler from COST, who is going to give our next presentation.
Thank you, Elaine. Great. So my name is Laura Kohler. I'm with COST. but I'm going to be presenting on behalf of a larger team, and one of the other team members is here, and that's Steren Philippe, so she'll be available to answer questions about this work as well, and then the others are not available or weren't available today to be in the room. So, okay, so just really briefly, who is COST? For those that aren't familiar with COST, we are a smaller organization, nonprofit based out of Calgary. And COST has and continues to provide technical trainings, competency development, and consulting for organizations that are working in non-networked water and sanitation in order to grow, strengthen, scale-up programs. The work that I'm going to talk about is part of a larger initiative that has aimed to identify, document, and then support the organizations that offer skills development and occupational learning to the professionals or the actors that are delivering non-sewer sanitation services. In order to identify the various activities that fall under this initiative, COST first reviewed a lot of the work that has been done, specifically the ASA feasibility study that was just talked about, among others, and have been coordinating with the other people that have been actually talking today. So, but from there, we, members of our team met with training institutes, academic programs, NGOs, to identify and understand the trainings and other types of capacity development services that have been delivered either on an ongoing basis or a one-off basis that are aimed to support non-sewer sanitation service delivery in our project countries. As well, we met with many non-sewer sanitation stakeholders, including emptiers, utilities, municipalities, and artisans. And out of that landscaping came quite a few opportunities, and I'm actually only going to speak to one of the things that we've been doing since that landscaping happened last year. And it's focused primarily around emptying service providers. And one of the reasons why we selected this was because there was a great opportunity and there's momentum in what's happening with emptiers starting last March, or actually I think it was even earlier than that, in Bamako. So citywide and national level associations were coming together and had started talking about forming this Pan-African Sanitation Actors Network, which is very exciting to announce that it was launched on the 17th, so this Sunday, and celebrated last night. But among other observations and learnings that came out of the landscape, I don't think there would be a surprise to anybody in this room, but that the emptying services are absolutely integral to non-sewer sanitation service delivery, and that they're an active and ongoing piece of the service in, if not all, many African cities. In addition to that, even though that's an active piece of the service, there are still challenges with the quality and completeness of that service and the ability to integrate that service into the larger sanitation service chain. And so that's one of the reasons why, again, we focus on the support that would be targeted at specifically emptying service providers. We also heard that to date, while there's a lot of efforts and a lot of great work that's being done, that the needs are not necessarily well understood and met by the trainings and other types of services that are currently available. And we had a follow-up discussion that just on the 18th, and we did this mapping exercise of where there is training and other types of capacity development services, and not surprisingly, a lot of them fall kind of in these technical categories and are actual trainings, but then lesser in some of the softer skills, finance, being able to talk with financial institutions, things like that, as well, not looking past trainings. So these other opportunities, other opportunities of like e-learning and mentorship, peer-to-peer exchanges, et cetera. Oh, I didn't explain the graphic, but if anybody's familiar with square peg, round hole, the idea is that we may have a training that's a square peg, and it could be perhaps like bookkeeping, but if the need is being able to, again, talk with a financial institution, and that's a round hole, that's not necessarily a need that's met. So what we're looking to do is find partnerships and work with the organizations to make sure that we have square pegs to meet square holes, and round pegs to meet round holes, and et cetera, just making that they're sure that there's services and support that meets the actual needs. To do this, we met in 2 countries, Dakar, Senegal, and Lusaka, Zambia, in November to bring together the experts on the topic, the emptiers themselves. And there were kind of 3 objectives to that exchange. And the individuals came from 8 different countries, so we had a wealth of knowledge in the room from various perspectives. And the 3 objectives were to, 1, define what we mean by a quality and integrated emptying service. And we looked at 3 different perspectives on that service. So what does a high quality and integrated service look like for a customer? What do they expect of an emptying service? But then we also talked about the business perspective. What do emptiers want? What do they envision for themselves and their businesses in the future? And what would their ideal look like? As well, we talked about the municipal and utility perspective. If they're the ones ensuring that the whole service, what is it that they expect of emptiers? From there, we talked about the challenges with then achieving that service. So those being characteristics that came out of that first conversation to define that service, and then what were the challenges that were faced. And then following up on that, then what are the knowledge, skills, and competencies? And I'm glad that it was mentioned earlier what a competency was, but what are the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that would support emptiers to address those challenges? And out of that came a draft competency framework. And for those that are not familiar with competency frameworks, essentially, at the bare minimum, it's a list of the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that support or underpin that service, the ability to deliver that service. And one of the things that came out of our discussion the other day is how important attitudes are to the service itself. So we always talk about skills and knowledge, but one of the biggest pieces under the surface is oftentimes the attitude, so it's very important. So this is kind of what, we have copies, and actually Saran has them, so if you're interested in seeing the draft, you're welcome. But there's kind of 4 primary categories of this competency framework, so 4 competency areas: operation and maintenance, relationship management, administration, and finance. And under that, there's subcategories. And then under each of those subcategories, there's a list of knowledge, skills, and attitudes that kind of underpin that sub-competency group. And so, for example, for loans and credits, which is under finance, you could have a knowledge area being just identifying loan providers, and a skill being able to manage the loan contract itself according to the terms. I'm not going to go into detail about the competency framework, and again, I mentioned that on the 18th we had a discussion. So we had November, it was focusing on the demand for capacity development services. What do they need? But then on the 18th, we were talking about now how to fill that with those that supply the services. So a discussion about, 1, getting feedback on the document, but then also talking about how to put it to use and where it could be useful. And these are 4 areas that we see as being the potential areas for how to use a competency framework. Certification, and needs assessment, so being able to evaluate the learning needs and preferences of emptiers so that we can actually then coordinate the activities to support them. And then monitoring and funding, something to kind of reflect on to be able to ensure that out of a capacity development activity that there's growth and that we can kind of measure that, the impact of those kind of softer activities. So I kind of wrap up with these kind of 4 points about impact. So again, this is not just a document, that the idea is that we're trying to focus on skills and occupational development to support the people that are doing the work. And the hope is to be able to meet their needs so that the services can improve. Scalability. Cost is based in Calgary, Canada, which is quite far from here. So this work has really it's been meant to be a partnership with many organizations, and again, those that are locally serving the stakeholders, whether it be emptiers or utilities, municipalities. The tool itself is open source, and though it would need to be adapted to specific contexts, specific country contexts. It is a tool that's available to anybody. So if there's interest, obviously we're around to chat, but also we look for opportunities to partner to design and deliver the support that would help those individuals that are doing the service grow in their work. Transferability, again, we had representatives, and we keep looking at the regional and national differences. And then again, as I mentioned, it's meant to be a foundation, and it can be adapted to country or even city level contexts. And then equity. I think one of the things that came out of at least the start of this work, it's not over, is just recognizing and formally recognizing by putting it on paper that this is a professional role in non-sewerage sanitation service delivery, and being able to bring the experts to the conversation to describe their work, to describe their challenges, has been one of the things that I think has really come out of this work. And by looking at the integrated component, the hope is that these services will start to reach more people and those that are usually not served or underserved. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, if those that are providing the services have better businesses, are able to grow their work or their businesses, that is a benefit to them themselves. And also, again, it goes back to recognizing them as professionals. So that is everything. If you have any questions after, not now, please feel free to approach either myself or Suren. We'd be happy to chat.
Thank you, Laura. And now I'm going to ask Christoph to come up. Oh, you're right here. Perfect. I was looking for you out there. For our final presentation from AVOG before we can creatively break into some discussion groups.
This is just there. No.
That's just forward.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Luthi from AVOG, and I'm going to add the last piece of the puzzle, which is the consulting industry. This is a training program that we're just about to start. We're working with partners in 6 countries in 4 regions and covering both face-to-face as well as online courses. We will start with the first training of trainers this May. Of course, this program is also funded by Bill Gates. What is the challenge? The challenge is that the funding for urban sanitation is now quickly changing. There's a new generation of projects coming online that has non-sewerage sanitation on board, and we believe the consulting industry in these countries that we're dealing with is not prepared for that. And this is where we come in, where we want to fill this gap and improve the delivery of programs for these select countries. Some numbers from the field. We know that big programs from different banks, development banks, are coming online that have a considerable component of non-sewerage sanitation. The newest one you might have heard of is from Lusaka, $300 million, of which a substantial amount will also go into non-sewerage sanitation. What are we aiming for? We're aiming to build on existing knowledge and capacity of consultants and increase knowledge, experience in non-sewerage solutions. And we want to introduce a range of state-of-the-art tools, diagnostic tools, to support decision-making planning of these new projects. Our target audience, very clearly private consulting companies, but also some international consulting companies in these countries who have their affiliates there, who are mostly university trained. They're time poor. They don't have a lot of time for doing this kind of training. But of course, they are highly motivated to win some of these new contracts that are now coming online. The material we're developing has face-to-face components, so training that will be given in country through these partner training institutes, but also e-learning through different modes of delivery, through different packages that we're preparing. We have a self-study element as well that is available on YouTube for anybody, for any consultant around the world who wants to download and watch this material. Facilitated and non-facilitated, we're going to base this online part on the Coursera platform. Let me just run you through quickly the 3-day face-to-face mid-level management training inputs. The first day using diagnostics is how do I diagnose the problems facing my city. We're looking at different application of planning tools, of how to deliver effective, inclusive urban sanitation systems. The second day is looking more at the enabling environment. What are the factors that we have to take into account, institution, regulatory, financial, and so on. Important issues like behavior change, which consultants usually in this space do not work with, gender issues, a lot of interactive and group work also integrated in this face-to-face training. And then finally, on the third day, sanitation solutions in practice, we have a number of case studies from around the world that we're going to be showing. And very important, we're going to run a bidding game with these consultants. So a bit of competitive element in these 3 days. They have to come up with the perfect bid. How are we organizing the online course? This will be a 3-week course over 3 weeks. It features video lectures, reading, quizzes, interactive forum that was mentioned before, that existing online courses usually lack that ability to exchange. We very much are looking forward for this exchange in these kind of courses. Suitable for self-study, I've mentioned that. Course certification is going to be part of the package, so we also want these consultants to have a certificate that they can show to their employers or for future employment. Contextualization, a very important part of what we're developing, so the next year will also be spent on contextualizing this generic material in country. And contextualization, in our view, is very key to make this applicable to the country, not only in the images that are used, in the wording, in the text, in the language, but also in the case studies that are shown and so on. Sustainability of the course, we're working together with a number of partners to look at how we can create this into a permanent business model for the partner training institutions. They are then going to be asked to expand their market within the region, within the countries they're working in, and the online training courses are free, but the certificate has to be paid for. Summing up, we're going to offer state-of-the-art new training with experienced trainers. We are developing state-of-the-art new visualizations on citywide inclusive sanitation and FSM. We're very much looking into interactive training and learning with these different audiences that we have. And, of course, contextualized context is a key issue. With that, we hope to provide improved consulting services to support citywide inclusive sanitation. Thank you very much. We have flyers on the tables that you can learn more about the course.
Okay, now we're getting to the part I think everyone's most excited about, the facilitated discussion. So you'll be able to talk to the panelists. We're not going to have a formal Q&A on the presentations, but you'll have the opportunity to talk to them when we break out into discussion groups. So given the size of the room, we're going to be a little creative about this. And we'll have 3 tables, but each table will have 2 discussion groups. So for table 1, it will be identifying and analyzing capacity building needs in WASH programming. Table 2 will be best practices and engagement mechanisms of building capacity. And table 3 is innovative models of capacity building and knowledge exchange. So for table 1, we're going to have our facilitators from Cost and Rashawn are going to be up here. So we'll have table 1.1 and table 1.2. And then we'll have table 2, the best practices and engagement mechanisms of building capacity, on the left side. And so, Demir, maybe you take the front bit, and Christoph, you can take the back bit of that section. In Table 3, innovative models of capacity building and knowledge exchange will be on the right. So Sophie, maybe you can take the front bit, and Teo and Rich will be in the back bit. So we'll have about 15 minutes to discuss, and then we'll do a report back to the group. Thanks so much. All right, everyone. I hate to stop these wonderful conversations that are going on, but we want to be respectful of your time and make sure you can get to lunch. So I'm going to ask you all to share one takeaway from your conversation, and group 3 will have 2 because they had 2 different groups. So we're going to start, and I have mics.
It's on. Okay, so our group was in far back. We were one of the innovation groups. The one takeaway we had was introduce innovation if you can, but the greatest training still comes from face-to-face interactions because it stimulates your memory. It can be emotional sometimes, and that's great. But that is what stuck with folks. You can do a hybrid version where you are accessing technology, but face-to-face is very important, and mentoring is a huge part of that. So that's our one takeaway.
Thank you. And now we have group 2.
Okay, in our group 2, we discussed best practices, and our main takeaway is basically there exist a lot of independent, smaller initiatives. Most of the courses existing in the sector are university-based, so short courses, full master's or BSc. But what's existing is a national framework that brings together the different streams, the different levels that need to be addressed. I think South Africa is moving in that direction, but is still trying to grapple. There's one country that was mentioned, that was India, that is now taking a structured approach to the sector training at all levels, and that's thanks to the National Institute of Urban Affairs, which is the think tank of the ministry in India. And they've been working on that for the past year, on trying to structure a multi-level training program for the sanitation sector across the many states and urban local bodies in India. Thanks.
Thank you. And then we have group 1.
Okay, so here we talked about the fact that there's not enough needs assessments being done, and that we currently make a lot of assumptions about what the capacity needs are. And one of the biggest barriers to conducting needs assessments is actually finances. And lastly, we talked about the need for needs assessment tools.
And our last feedback from the other group 3.
Thanks. So, no, I can't read it that far away. So, our main feedback from this group was that whichever way you do training, the opportunities for practically applying what you've learned is really essential, and then having some sort of follow-up and post-training support once you've had time to go back to your workstation and practice what you've learned, to then have follow-up to refresh you or realign what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And first of all, thank you to all of you for bearing with us as we finagled our way into these discussion groups. And to close, we do have a survey that we've created that will, 1, give you the opportunity to provide feedback on this session, and 2, give you the opportunity to provide feedback on the presentations that were shared earlier. Your feedback is really important as these different programs continue to grow and evolve. So the link is on the screen right now. If you don't feel like copying it down, you can just email me, elaine_potter@wallace.org, and I'm more than happy to share the link with you as well. I encourage you to take a photo of it, and when you have time later today or in the evening, to either go online and fill out the survey or bug me and I can send you the survey. So a big round of applause to all of our presenters today, and thank you so much for your time.